Michigan's population is falling. From 2020 to 2022, the U.S. Census Bureau estimates more than 43,000 people left the state. And in the decade before 2020, the census shows people across the country are moving to places like Florida, Texas, and Utah. That shift caused Michigan to lose a seat in Congress because Michigan has a small percentage of the entire U.S. population.
The Growing Michigan Together Council released a report this week saying Michigan ranks 49th out of 50 states in terms of population growth, and that by 2050, our state population is expected to fall every year. So the council has a plan to try to bring people back. They've set a goal to make Michigan a top 10 state for population growth by 2050. To do that, they want to attract young talent by making Michigan a hub of innovation, improving the education system so it's more affordable, and giving students the skills that prepare them for a rapidly changing world, and develop communities with more housing, better infrastructure, and public transportation.
Tonight, we are joined by Shirley Stancato and John Rakolta Jr. Both are chairs of the council. Michigan has taken steps now towards being an innovation hub, so giving out grants and battery plants, for example. And we know that Ford is actually scaling back its plans for a battery plant in Marshall. We'll start with you, Shirley. How do you feel that they'll be able to ensure that those long-term plans in Michigan to become an innovation hub actually pan out?
Well, our process that we use in terms of including everybody possible is how it's going to happen. So in other words, it's not just us, it's everybody in Michigan. One of the things that's very different about this project, or this process, is that the governor saw fit to actually appoint an individual who has responsibility for growth, chief growth officer in the state. We're the first state that's happened with, and we're the first state that's focused on increasing our population. Now, the other thing is that the individuals that work with us, more than 100 individuals, were part of work groups that actually made the recommendations about what should happen. And so this innovation hub is important. We know that EVs are a part of what we're looking at for the future. And one of the things we focus on is individuals have left this state to go to other states because our education system has not focused on the future, along with a lot of other things. So ensuring that it will happen has to do with getting everybody possible to focus on the issue, focus on the problem, and then come together to work for a solution.
Yeah, let's talk about some of those other things. John, can you expound on how we got here? Why are so many people leaving when Michigan does have plenty to offer?
So let me start by saying that we've lost 6 congressional seats, not 1, since our peak of 19. And the data shows us today that if we're not careful, we could lose 2 or 3 more. Why that's important is our share of the amount of federal funds coming into the state is smaller and smaller and smaller. You ask why we're losing these people? It's simple. There's better opportunities in other states. There's better pay. Our per capita income has fallen precipitously for the last 70 years. Back in the early 50s, we were one of the top performing states in the nation. Our per capita income was almost 120% of average. Today, we're at 87%. And so when you take a look at opportunity, take a look at the lack of education and poor talent distribution, when you look at per capita income, people are going to other states because the opportunities are better.
You know, if I could just add to that, one of the things that we've seen, we talked about this being a crisis situation. We learned so much in this process. We learned that Michigan's population, 34 and under, in the past 40 years has grown on average about 20%. The number of individuals 65 and over has grown 98%. So the young people have left our state, going to other states, and not just Florida, but Colorado is a state they're going to, Massachusetts, right? And still we're losing lots of young people to Chicago, Illinois, and they're going to those places really and not here. So our population is aging. We're not going to have people to do jobs. Individuals who run companies are going to take their companies to other states, and it goes on and on and on. And again, we use the word crisis because we were so surprised, so many aha moments in this process that Michigan really is going in the wrong direction.
John, there are a lot of things that we can try to do to change course. Are there any specific areas of focus in this plan?
I think there are two big things that we need to do for sure. One is that the entire state has to understand the severity of the problem. It's very slow moving. It's not something that you notice from day to day, week to week, or even month to month. It's taken several decades to see the precipitous decline. So that's one thing. And then secondly, we have a lot of structural deficiencies that no matter what the various recommendations might be, if we don't fix these structural deficiencies in both the Constitution and some of the regulations and law, there's nothing that we can do tactically that's really going to change the needle. And that's where we really need to focus. And third, we're not a very cohesive state. We have a lot of contention in our state compared to perhaps the southern states. We've got to cohesively come together as a society. We have to do that on a political basis, get the Democrats and Republicans to work closer. We need labor and management to work closer. We need to solve our racial disparities. And if we can do those things and show the rest of the world that this is the place to come, that we are cohesive, we want to have best jobs for our people, and on top of it, we really need to improve our K through 12. That's our Achilles heel right now. We have fallen from a top 10 state to a bottom 10 state. That means we've gone from about 8th in the country down to 39th in terms of our outcome for our K through 12. And if we don't have those kids who are going to take these high-tech, high-paying, highly skilled jobs in the future, the future is bleak.
Yeah.
So only 33% of our kids in the state of Michigan, only 33% of our 4th and 8th graders can read at that level. So 4th graders, 8th graders, 8th grade math, 4th grade reading, only 33% of the kids in the state can read and do math at that level. We have issues.
Right. On another note, I'm curious, a number of climate scientists have suggested that the Great Lakes region overall, and perhaps Michigan in particular, could be a great place to be in as the effects of climate change intensify. Is there anything about just the geography and that potential for this to be a climate change safe haven that might help this plan to grow the population?
Yeah, I think that that's a possible potential. But I think the problem becomes that we can't just depend on that. It becomes too much of a risk just to wait for the climate to change for us to grow. You know that if we had just kept pace with where we were 20 or 30 years ago, we'd have 2 million more people here in the state. So that's the big problem. We can't wait for just climate. I do think that there is some possibility there, but there's no proof today.
The young people also aren't choosing a place because of the climate. We had the opportunity to go around the state and talk to more than 10,000 people, talking to a lot of young people. And young people are choosing their place first and then the jobs. So our climate has not kept young people here. They're going to other places in order to get jobs. And one of the big pieces that they talked about, we were surprised at the fact that young people don't want to drive. They don't want driver's licenses. They want to go to a place where there's public transportation. We talked to young people, and they've told us that's another one of the reasons that they're leaving Michigan. And others are saying if it doesn't change, then many more are going to leave. Our college graduates, we have a lot of college graduates, but many of them, the majority of them, leave the state once they get the college education. So the climate is one thing, but it's not keeping the young people here.
Sure. And with this plan, I know that there are going to be some resources that are needed in order to implement it the right way. Should there be any concern for people in the state in terms of seeing higher taxes as a result to fund something like this?
Well, the report clearly states at the end that if we need to look for more revenue, there are 4 large steps that we have to take before we even think about new taxes. First is we have a $50 billion budget here in the state of Michigan. We need to ensure and protect that budget from the standpoint to let our citizens know that there is no waste, there is no pork in there, there isn't special interest, and that money is being spent wisely. And I personally believe that there can be funds found in that $50 billion. So that's step 1. Step 2, we've got to ask ourselves, are we receiving all the federal money that we should be getting? And have we really done a deep dive on that? Step 3, we have found that philanthropy during this process has come forward. We've got some really large philanthropic foundations here in the state. And they've asked can they do to help, and we've got to devise the plan where they can step forward along with private enterprise. And then fourth, we have to ask ourselves, have we actually devised a tax system here that represents the 21st century? Do electric vehicles, for instance, play a role in that? They're using the roads, but there isn't any income coming from them to take care of the roads. So after those 4 steps are completely done, then and only then should we be going to the citizens to ask them to fund this. And I believe that within those first 4 steps, we'll be able to solve this problem without additional taxes.
And you know, the governor gave us 6 months. She actually was kind enough to give us an extra couple of weeks. But there were so many aha moments for us, and we learned so much. We did not have the time to talk about dollars and cents, how much it costs. We know that there's a next step. Again, we have a person who's responsible for this. There's a chief growth officer. That officer reports to the governor, and that is something that's gonna go forward. So we haven't had a conversation at all about taxes increasing. John and I've heard it a lot, but that didn't happen as a part of the work that we did at the council.
Well, we appreciate you both joining us today. Thank you so much for all that you've put into this plan, and we look forward to covering it more in the future as it plays out. Shirley Stancato and John Rakolta Jr., thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.